Hi, ladies. Welcome back.
No clue what is
No
happening.
idea. I've even on my side, I've changed back over to Wi-Fi, and I always use just 4G for these lives.
You know what? It's high disruption. It's
Yeah,
wide,
it's
and
hard.
5G and the Wi-Fi can't bear it.
You know.
That's what I'm putting it down to.
We don't know. We don't know. But once again, as I said, the intro has already been posted. So if you're new to us again, thank you for rejoining. You'll hear all of the introduction on the part 1 post that has just been uploaded. But for those of you that haven't seen that part, my name is Riasha. This is Daughters of May We Talk series special. And the reason it's a special is because I'm joined by the wonderful artist and duo, Melonix. Can you, for the final time, say who you are?
I'm Nadia. Hello.
I'm Georgia. Hey, and
we
we
are
are
Melonix.
See, that even sounds more beautiful now that we've rehearsed that 3 times anyway. So what we were saying before we were rudely disturbed by technology is if you had a fantasy soul sister duo and you had to choose between these categories, Erykah Badu and Summer Walker, or Jill Scott and Ari Lennox, who would you choose?
What are they? The duos that we
They're
have?
the duos, yeah. They collab.
Oh, for me it would be Jill and Ari.
Yeah, and then we love Erica, but
Okay. Don't worry, she ain't watching. I don't think she is, so it's fine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next,
yeah,
I'm pulling on a few. Obviously, I'm a super fan, and also your girl, and I kind of know what some of your influences are. So this next collab, well, not collab. This next category to choose from would be SWV or Escape.
SWV.
Wow.
yeah.
Not even gonna pause just for respect, you know. Okay.
I felt like I did pause for respect. You know, we like what we like, and
Okay, I like that though. And finally, I'm hoping that this one's going to stump you a little bit. I did it on purpose. Brandy and Melonix, or Moonchild and Melonix?
Brandy and Melonix.
Okay. I only did it because I was like, oh, are they going to get political? Because I know Moonchild is a label mate. Da, 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 da.
Brandy is your favourite singer's favourite singer, vocal Bible.
Like, okay, the like vocal Bible.
That's what we came up on. Like, it's got to be Brandy.
Yeah, all the way. That was not hard, girl.
I thought it would be. Okay. Well, as we've spoken about some of the influences that we both familiar with, know and love, let's get straight into it. Now, today we're going to be talking about sisterhood, community, and therapy. So let's kick off with sisterhood. I've got my first question is, current female collaborations seem to be on the rise again, at least within Black music. So aside from like the Chloe and the Halle, there aren't any actual duos though. There's lots of collaborations, people working together, but I haven't seen many duos since the likes of like Flowetry, Janae, those kind of people in the early 2000s and 90s. So why do you think that is? And what made you come together?
I don't know if I strictly agree with that. I just maybe not getting the same type of exposure that those. I don't think that there's loads, but I can name like 3 off the top of my head.
Give us some.
So Van Jess.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Oshun.
Yeah.
Oh. I haven't heard from them in a while. Yes.
KTNA, they're from here. Yeah.
Who?
KTNA.
Okay, where are they from?
Manchester.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know really. I agree. I'm not sure. But having said that, though, I do think
it's fairly recent, I reckon.
Yeah, like I don't know. I can't speak for everything, but it seems like that's kind of back on the up just recently. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps there was a bit of a lull, because I definitely think we were in agreement at the time that we started working together, I would say, and it's something that was pointed out by our label boss as well. That was kind of something
common,
and
so
that was a bit of a USP. However, it seems to be a bit more like we can name a few. But having said that, what did we name? 4 people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's definitely a resurgence, and I've definitely seen a resurgence, like I said, with collaborations for sure. Like there's less of that rivalry at the moment and more of that joining of forces, which I'm enjoying. But yeah, I just wondered what your thoughts were with that. So it's basically maybe a light is not being shone on these unions of sisterhood that we've got. And quite a few of those that you mentioned were Black women as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I guess that speaks to the type of music we listen to as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, I don't know what the reason would be though, why it would be less. I think.
Well, I was going to say, you know, it's the merging of 2 personalities, 2 ideas, 2 minds. It's collaboration it flows, but sometimes it takes like the relationship has to be there. So you might not have the type of relationship that can withstand being permanently in a group.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's give and take.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think if you're going into something and you're very much like, I need to do this for me, then I think it's quite hard to be in that mind space and be collaborative. And I think we all know that women aren't encouraged to collaborate. Women are encouraged to compete
against
whereas I think males, you know, it's kind of not the same thing. I think especially for women, and then the extra layer of being a woman of colour, it's like, oh, you know, kind of like who can be on instead of let's all.
Because the gatekeepers often have only a few of us within those circles, so therefore we're pegged against each other. Whether it be, you know, I'm not in the corporate world, but I'm sure it's the same. Like if you're working in an industry and then you're the only one, you're an anomaly, you're the token, and another one comes. Yes, you could align, but also that could be seen as a competition, or you could be pegged against one another. So I suppose it's the same in many fields of work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're here anyway, shining that light of yours. You've kind of touched on it a little bit, Nadia, there as well. I was going to ask, what are the challenges as well as the benefits to working so closely with what you 2 call your soul sister? And what are your top 3 tips of working with friends?
Oh, that's a good one. I think for me, the biggest benefit is the growth. Since we've been working together, we've both come out of our shell in different ways, or expanded parts of our strengths that we might not have necessarily known that we had. It's also, she's gonna laugh at me because I love her saying, but obviously there's that old African saying, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that our union has definitely been an example of that. Like, I would say that this is probably the most traction that we've had in this line of work. Do you know what I mean? Since we started. So, I feel like that's about 3 benefits right there.
And any challenges, without causing any friction, because we like the union, any challenges that, you know, let's be real.
Well, and of course there are challenges, because as we just touched on, we're individuals, do you know what I mean? So we have to compromise, we have to deal with our humanity, do you know what I mean? I love this girl, and the things that I love about her are also the things that if I was a different type of person would probably make me feel like jealous or whatever, do you know what I mean? Because she's highly talented, and probably things with vice versa, do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say like dealing with humanity, finding the common ground. Like, even though it's quite easy for us because we're close and we have a lot of things in common, actually it through this venture that we found out how many things that we have that are different.
That's cool.
Which is nice, because it means that it's almost like all covered, bases are covered. She's one end of the spectrum, I'm another end of the spectrum, but we've got a nice place where we meet in the middle.
I love that.
some of the stuff, yeah.
Thank you.
Communication can be challenging because I think explain things in a way.
Georgia, I've just lost the beginning of your sentence. Can you say that again? Communication can be challenging because...
Yeah, because I think you have to communicate in a way that the other person can understand what's said. So, and another thing that I always talk about is trying to push past the, oh, I don't know how to explain. Like, you have to be explained, because otherwise you can't move past whatever the barrier is. And I think that's something that we've had challenges with, which I think would be fair to say. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy to kind of, when you butt heads, because we're both people, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Has her opinion and they don't always align. So I think it's about trying to communicate and learn how to do things quickly so you can be productive. Do you know what I mean? But that
learning how to
de-escalate.
Love it. Okay.
So that, you know, they move through and continue to progress in whatever direction you're going in. And I do think that can be hard to do. You don't have to think about that if you're working on your own. It's just, I've got my, and this is what I'm going to do next. Whereas I think that's great, is also difficult because you're always having to take into someone else's viewpoints and make sure you meet in the middle, which isn't always easy to do.
Thank you, and thank you for being so transparent with that as well, because I know that it's hard sometimes to share what the vulnerabilities or the challenges are of any union, whether it, any type of relationship, in a public way. So we appreciate that of you, Soul Sisters. And for people who are not fangirls like myself, which I'm guessing is not that many people because you're world sensations, can you just backpedal a little bit and share with us the main themes of your music at this point? Because I know that it's vaster and bigger than what we know about so far, but just where you're at right now, what we've heard, what are the main themes of those songs?
I would say self-care, definitely empowerment of women and Black women in particular, and just celebration of Black women. I would say our greatness, what we bring to the table. That's a reoccurring theme throughout a few of the tracks, and also knowing your self-worth and valuing yourself high enough to have your expectations and not let others kind of make you fall beneath whatever barrier or whatever it is that you set in. So I think those were the things that we kept talking about at the time that we were writing the EP, and I think those things come through quite strongly.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I really didn't.
Say that again, Nadia.
No, so I didn't think you missed anything there. Yeah, you hit.
No, and I'm glad that that's what I, as a listener, hear as well. But I did share that at the beginning, but I didn't want to put my own fangirl feelings as like an actual fact. So I thought it was important that you definitely spoke about that. And still with the theme of sisterhood, Georgia, this one's for you first, and then Nadia afterwards, if you don't mind. You've featured, contributed, featured, escalated, I mean, call it what you want, I'm a fangirl, elevated a track with Jar Digger, who's a Nottingham native as well, shout out to you if you're online, and Gets, man like Gets, called Grandma's Place, which cherishes and honours the matriarchal figures in our families. And I say our because from what I've seen of the video and the lyrics and everything, it's very much, I'd say, Caribbean kind of centered, but yes, a Black experience. But I just got a lot from like the monologue of the lady in the video and everything. Similarly, would you agree that the idea of sisterhood, just as much as having like a matriarch, is culturally tied into our history and our experiences as like Black women? And if so, why do you think it's so important to have these ties, these matriarchs, these bonds of sisterhood where it's like your family, like your cousins, it's almost deeper than a friend and deeper than a grandma? why do you think these exist in our Black experiences, and why is it so important to talk about these?
That is a very, very layered question.
It's big and layered, but you can pick any part of it and just speak on it.
Why do I think it's so important in our culture? I think it's a hard question for me to answer. It's almost like I don't know. It just is. Do you get
Why
what I
is
mean?
your sisterhood so important?
Because I think it's a way to grow. I think it's a way to open yourself up. I think we pass down traditions that way. I think we lessons that way. It's a part of like womanhood. It's almost how we're raised and nurtured into the women that we are. I think for me, our sisterhood is important for those reasons, isn't it? Because for sharing, for collectiveness, to grow, like be able to speak freely about things that affect us. You know, it's not every woman that I feel you can speak to like that. Do you get what I mean? And aside from sisterhood, I have actual sisters as well. Right. And I think that's very important for me to share my experiences, for those to share their experience. It's that kind of solidarity, and sometimes, you know, I don't know, just a way to learn. It's hard to find it very hard to put it into words. For me,
that was perfect. That made complete sense.
That's what it's part of our culture, innit? That's just how
that's just how it just is what it is. We don't know why, it just is what it is. It's inherent to Black womanhood.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's almost like a rite of passage, isn't it? The things with whether it's a matriarch, like I think I said when I posted the video to my story for Grandma's Place, I don't really have a grandma that I'm that close with. I do. My mum's mum, my dad's mum is alive, but you know, she's in Leeds. I'm in Nottingham a bit of time. But my auntie was that person. You know, she was that to my mum lost her mum when she was very young, and that same auntie, the mother and sister figure to my mum, and then the matriarch of the whole family. And it's just this kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like she's connected, was even though she's not here anymore.
It's almost like spiritual for me anyway.
Verbalize these things, I think, because of how we are culturally. It's like what I love about sisterhood and the way that we are as Black women together. It doesn't be verbal. It's things like this, hand gestures, looks, kissing of the so much more involved than oh, that's just my friend.
It is, and it's deeper, and that's why I touched on it, because it is really hard to articulate it, but it's just this weird Nadia, please add to it. Nadia, you were also in the video showing love in Grandma's Place, and I wonder for you, what feelings of family, memory, and experiences in your Black womanhood so far did it bring up for you, being part of those different scenes that were set in the grandma's house and the family's house?
Well, similarly to G, I don't have that relationship with my maternal or paternal grandmother, because they both, one passed away before I was born, one passed away when I was very young. However, the spirit of both of them lives on with, like, it's almost like they really are still here. You know what I mean? Just the memories kept alive by their children, the traditions, the things that people see in, like, for example, I'll use my mum's mum as an example, because everyone just says that my mum is the spit of who they used to call Aunt Jay. And a family friend or a family member sees her or sees me, you walk just like Jay, you talk or you cook just like Aunt Jay. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel like
you're connected.
They're with you still.
Yes.
That's the experience of it. My mom is the matriarchal figure in my life. she's the grandma. She's the one where, when I felt a massive gap in my, not in my life, I can't explain it, but like my mum and dad migrated. They're still here and they're still alive and stuff.
Oh, yeah, wow.
There's a vacuum now because
yeah.
She was the linchpin of the family, which is matriarch often is.
Yeah.
When she finally went to join my dad abroad, Sunday dinners stopped happening, link ups farther between, do you know what I mean? Because she was, you know, that if it's Sunday, you don't even have to call. You just rock up at Grace's house and dinner is served. The kids are going to be there. We're going to be bussing joke. Chemistry playing in the background, or heat wave.
Heat wave radio. Wow, Nottingham native, you know all about that.
So that role in our community is absolutely, it's essential. Like,
yeah,
the whole community falls down without that role.
And I think when you think about it historically, it makes sense because we're a community that's kind of been stripped of certain pillars of the family. Then you get, and were left kind of on their own. The men and the women were separated off. Women had to be like these strong, you know, everything and then some on the backs of their shoulders, still raising children, still being strong, still cooking, still cleaning, still going to work. Do you know what I mean? So I think that kind of probably also has a bearing on why that sisterhood thing and that matriarch figure is so important in our culture. I think, you know, that kind of kept us sane, kept us together, kept traditions even when people were trying to strip us of our very core of our culture. Do you get what I mean? It's, you often hear it, don't you? Like, it's the mothers that pass down the culture, and that's why I think it's important. And I think that's why that's something that we as Black women carry in our sisterhoods, and people share stories that you might not get in your matriarch, but you know, what about love, what about entanglements and all these things. No, but seriously though, I think that sometimes is where, like, I know my mum spoke about back in the day and how, you know, certain things that is normal for us to talk about now, they weren't talking about back then.
True. That's true.
You had to learn from your friend what those things were. So I think a lot entangled in it in terms of being a woman of colour, Black culture, women in general, and just kind of that role that has been kind of pinned on us historically.
Because it's like, it's almost like a social responsibility that we don't ask for, which is good and bad.
Exactly.
And it's very heavy, but also very, very valued.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
it's
actually a source of pride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, especially for those who are fortunate enough to have those real good sources of, like, that example in their life.
Person.
Like those Proverbs 31 women, as I like to call them, which I'm very, very, very blessed to have been surrounded by. I've got a lot of those types of women in my life, which is why I find it laughable sometimes when I hear this trope of women not supporting each other, or women backbiting, or women tearing each other down, or women being gossips. All that is chaff to me, because that's not my lived experience.
Yeah.
I'm very much propped up by the women in my life. So, like I said, it's a source of pride to me.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for exploring that with me, because, you know, like we're saying, these are not topics that, one, you know, like you touched on, G, that our elders, our family, peers, the generation before us maybe discussed in a intellectual or in an open way. They just were, and they still just are. We don't need to dissect them, but it is nice sometimes to like have this moment to touch base on what it is, because as we do get older, as our generations do go on, things do get lost, things do get, you know, diluted. People leave us and they leave their legacy, but that is only a trace of what they are and what they represent. You know, like my grandma, she was that matriarch. When she finally moved from America to England and was in Nottingham, that was major for my family. We would just pass through. People coming from York, people coming from London, people coming from America, passing through grandma's little flat yeah, like passing through grandma's little flat. And you know, it was really beautiful to have her in the same country, because that was a novelty to me, because growing up we would go to her in a different country. So to then have the loss of that, it is a bit of a void, and it is that thing of, okay, so now we have to make an effort to meet up, because we weren't making an effort. We were just relying on the fact that we'd see each other at some point when we visit grandma.
And I think that's when you really learn to respect what that is. Because when that person's gone, you have to think about who's going to take up the mantle. Who's going to be doing what. It's like, well, do you know what I mean?
Everyone's looking around like, it's hard to be that person.
But the most, do you know how much it is to cook for yourself? With partner, you and your partner, or if you've got a family, your family. So
never mind.
What do you mean? 3 to 4 to 5, possibly families someday to eat.
And then people end up having boyfriend and girlfriend one come round,
and you know, and you're getting up at the crack of dawn to season meat and be cooking
That's
up.
not love.
There and it's just, who's doing it?
Who is doing it?
Who is doing it? Me and my sister always like. My sister's always laughing at me because she'll just be like, oh, Nad, shall we have a barbecue? Or, oh, shall we tell the kids to come round? And I start getting palpitations, because all I'm thinking is, what am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to get? I'm not going to get to sit down. I'm going to be at the grill. I'm going to, do you know what I mean? And this is why it's so, those people are so revered, you know, like that.
Yes, we must revere them when they're here.
They did it and they didn't complain.
Right.
I don't even know the work that went into it, because it was never being spoken about. They were just getting on with it.
Can I just say that everything we're saying, my mum is in the live. Hi, Mum. And she is laughing. She said laugh out loud emojis, because in my eyes, she's the kind of taken that role in our family. And she knows, like, I'm always cussing her though. I'm like, stop cooking for people. Stop making cake. Because I see the work that goes into it, and I'm like, but it's a beautiful thing. It shouldn't stop, and we just need to give those people their flowers and really respect what they do. Say that again, Nadia.
I said, I think now that we've reached the age where we start to recognise what it entails, it's time for us to step up and lend a hand. You know what I mean? Rather than...
I mean, I'm not making cake. I will be very frank with you now. There will be no cake made. However, I hear you. And what I've chosen to do is, maybe like yourselves, use my art. We're fortunate as a generation to pursue our dreams. Some of the generation before us did jobs not because it was their dream, it's because it was a good professional job that would give them stability. Exactly. We're pursuing passions. That's different. Yeah. Some of those professions might have been passions, but this, just in doing what we love, that's legacy. Just in, for instance, I was able to do I don't want to make it too much about me, but like, I did a performance on a major scale. As you guys know, I'm in Harry Potter. Everyone else, thank you. Okay, this is about you. But everyone else did the very sensible thing of inviting agents, producers, etc., industry people to their rehearsal. Now me, although I like being in the industry, I will say that, you know, I study psychology for a reason. It's because I'm trying to, you know, skirt. That's all I'll say. So I invited my family, and it was really important for my friends and family, especially the ones under 16, to see that moment. That production is massive. That production is worldwide. To see their big cousin, their auntie or whatever on stage doing it, that's me baking a cake. Do you get what I mean? I can't bake no cakes. But I can do that and bring you into this world and let you see that your goals and your passions are attainable. And so I think we all do it, but maybe in different ways. But the traditional way should never, ever be lost or looked down on, for real.
And if you do have the matriarchs and the ones before that made that possible, it's a beautiful thing for them to be able to witness what enabled you to become.
Yes.
So I think that you absolutely made the right choice in inviting your family.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to move us on to community because we've spent a lot of time on family and sisterhood and I've loved it. But again, I don't want to, I've got this timer on and it's kind of proven redundant because we stopped and started a few times. So I actually don't know how long we've been talking. Okay, maybe about half an hour or so. So I'm going to move us on to community because it's warm. I want to make sure that you're hydrated, you get to stretch your legs and we don't stay on the live too long. But if you're with us now, great. If you want to watch us on the replay, awesome. Please remember to like and subscribe, follow and share. But as we move on to community, can you tell us briefly, just separately and together, about the types of community you grew up in? I'm privy to it, obviously, because I know about some of it because I was there. But can you give the watchers an insight, please?
Okay. I'd probably say I grew up in a blended community, Jamaican community. My parents are first generation. No, I'm first generation British. Actually,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, me and my siblings are the first ones that were born here. Parents were born in Jamaica and came over when they were young. So that in itself breeds a community because obviously you're going to be around the Jamaicans. You're going to be around. So that's probably like my first community. Then I grew up in Hyson Green. So if you're from Nottingham, you know. I grew up in the hood a little bit, and Radford as well. I was between there and there, and that's why I would come to say a blended community because I feel like there were all types of people in that area. You had black, Asian, white. It was a bit of a thing. Was what else? What about the community?
Just what type of community did you grow up in, and like I guess how did it shape you? Just briefly, because we'll get deeper.
Oh, it's funny because I moved away for 3 years, but in my like formative years between the ages of like 6 and 9, and the area that I moved to, it's somewhere in Rutland. Only black child.
Wow.
Family in that area. So
that's a massive contrast, Nadia. So to go from being in such a blended environment, very much embedded within the Jamaican community, as well as the surrounding very, very, very varied cultures, to go to somewhere where you're the only one.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that like?
It was significant. And it played a part in shaping me because I went from, like I said, being in what some would consider the heart of the hood or whatever, to going to being in the countryside where the closest shop was like 3 miles away.
Wow.
It was just a small estate that only prison officers lived on. And that was it. The prison at the top of a hill.
Wow.
Valley or like a dip, and then at the other end of the hill, on the other side of the hill, it was the estate. So
Wow.
I was a child. Children, the innocent, they get on the situation as they adapt. However, there were significant moments of realization of my race. I don't want to start getting deep, but yeah, like me.
Only what you're comfortable with, please.
Oh yeah, okay. You know what? When I go into these things, I can end up talking a long time, so I'm just kind of.
It's fine.
Do you know what I mean? But yes, obviously there was times where I went through challenges because of being the only black kid, and then realizing things about like, oh, my hair does this when it gets wet. Everyone can go over there and do that, and I'm over here looking like this, and do you know what I mean? So
just noticing those differences that weren't really pointed out to you when you were in a more varied, because it's not that it was all black, because I was there too, but it was like just more, I don't want to say accepting, but just so varied that you didn't stand out. Like, if you had your swimming cap on, or if your hair went into like a fro or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, that's my friend, and her hair goes into a fro. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And then moving back from that environment back into the hood, and then new accent, and then standing out and being, obviously I didn't have any, but like when I was in the countryside and was with those kids, my accent changed, so I became very well spoken, not out of trying, just out of
of course,
very well spoken. It wasn't something that I noticed until
I pointed out to you
in St Anne's, because that's where I went. So I went to school in Hyson Green first, then came back and went to school in St Anne's, and it was like, oh, you talk funny, why do you talk like that?
And for those of you that are watching, sorry to interrupt you, that are not from Nottingham, these areas we're talking about, so Rutland is on the outskirts of Nottingham. It's a lot more rural compared to the inner city places that we're mentioning, which are Hyson Green, St Anne's, shout out to you. But these places are a lot more built up, a lot more estates, very close to the city centre, very populated. So it's just very different landscapes.
Very, very, very different.
Just one more question on that for you, and before we move over to G, if that's all right. What was it like just visually as a child? I know you wouldn't have thought about this maybe at the time, but how do you now appreciate urban like landscape in comparison to like more rural countryside landscape, seeing as you were exposed to both at such a young age? Like, how did that shape you?
Like, to get back to the question, it shaped. So
oh, we just lost the sound on you, Nadia. Say that again, because we just...
Oh, sorry, I said... Oh, no worries. So go back to the essence of that question, you're asking how I it, and it shaped me significantly. Like, I would say that I'm quite outdoorsy as a person.
Yes,
Not picking up any bugs or anything like that, but I like to go rock pooling or whatever. Like, I like to be outside, like to do yoga in the garden or something like that. And that probably very much comes back to me having that freedom in the countryside to just be roaming, climbing trees, running through fields, biking to quarries, and being on a farm, being surrounded by cows and sheep and all them things there. Like that, I'm very much like to be in the outdoors. At the same time, I've got love for a metropolitan lifestyle as well. I like to be. I live in Lenton now, which is very close to the city centre.
Yes.
I like it that way because my amenities are exactly where I want them.
Yeah. Convenience.
So I think it shaped me in a great way. I feel like I'm a very rounded person because of it. Do you know what I mean? And it's enabled me to be able to have different walks for different talks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, to be able to adapt and speak to different people. And...
in a contrasting way, I do feel like a little bit of an in-betweener. So sometimes I feel like I fit in anywhere, but I make myself fit in if I need to, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Sometimes it's like, I wouldn't go as far as a class thing, but it's environmental. Like, I was very much on the cusp as well. So I wasn't like, I was from ends, but I wasn't hood.
Yeah.
But then I'd go to like my place. Yeah, but I wasn't hood enough. And then I'd go to like my summer camp, and they'd think I was the most ghetto thing they've ever come across in their life. And then even in my professional environment, like I'll be at work, and if I've been back to Notch, you know, my accent's thick, and they're like, "What are you saying? What?" And it's almost like a memory, a little mirroring of kind of being in those environments where, you know, you stand out because you're from you're regional, or because you're from in a city or whatever. It's a weird line that we tread, you know, but it does make you very adaptable to different situations.
Exactly.
Georgia, what's your experience been? Only what you're comfortable sharing. I'm going to turn on the light. I'm not ignoring you.
What's my experience?
Yeah, your experience been in your community growing up. Only what you're comfortable to share, obviously. Sorry about this. I'm going to change the light a little bit.
Born in Leeds.
Oh, yes.
My family's from Leeds, and I was there until I was about 7, 8, around that age. So I didn't come here until I was like into junior school, basically.
Okay.
Leeds, we lived in quite a... I wouldn't say it was the hood, put it that way.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was posh either. We just lived in like a... whatever middle ground of that is,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I went to a school that was very non-POC, basically. So my first few years of schooling was definitely that same thing of being like the only black in my year. I think there was like a few Asian, and yeah, we were definitely made aware that we were on a basis. So there was that, and then
Wow.
yeah, then I moved to Nottingham. My mum moved me and my brother and sister to Nottingham, and we moved to Valley, and then that's where I lived until I moved out of home. So I went to school in that area, school and secondary school in the same area. And I don't know how I'd describe Top Valley really.
I'm smiling because I did not know this, you know. I did not know this.
Top Valley is just kind of just a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely would not say that I'm from the hood in any way, but there's hood areas.
Yeah, Top Valley. I mean, we've got the Goonies and all sorts. Like, it's one of those weird ones where people used to, being from Radford, people used to think Top Valley and Sherwood were posh. And then when I moved to Sherwood, yes, there are bits that are like, you know, seem well to do.
Yeah.
And it's nothing taken away from anyone that's from anywhere, because like, as all three of us are explaining, we've lived in very different places throughout our lives. But it's just interesting that, you know, people's perception of these areas as opposed to like what they're actually like.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, kind of where I spent my formative years. That those schools were quite mixed, but it was quite hard integrating coming from Leeds. So, I mean, I didn't realise that you had that accent thing, but coming from the north and being in the Midlands, like the accents are wildly.
Yes.
That was something that was pointed out to us. Being the oldest as well was quite hard. So when I came here and started going to school, it was that thing of joining in the middle of a school year. I can't remember first year, and that being new, people being aware that you knew, and kind of making a point to pick you out. So
of course, because back then, regardless of race, I think Nottingham's become a little bit more embracing its kind of big city energy now, but we were so insular, and I say we because I was included. Like, anything different was like weird. So not just to do with race, like I can imagine you coming down and you standing out immensely because of having a different accent with black, white, Asian, anyone. Like, just the fact that you're not from Notts, like, who are you, whose cousin are you, like.
And look, actually one of my cousins had already previously moved to Nottingham and went to school, was a boy. So basically when I was in Leeds, I was bullied at that school, and then I kind of made a conscious decision that I was not being bullied in school no more. So when I came up here, it was very much like that thing of having to have a certain level of bravado that doesn't really exist to yourself in that school. So yeah, I think I felt like an outsider on both sides. Obviously, over time, found my feet and stuff, but I think it's made me to touch on the bit of how it shaped me. I don't know. I think I'm quite comfortable being a learner when I have to be. Like, I'm the sort of person where I'll firm it and do my. I have to. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that I don't go in those situations and feel like I will feel some type of way if I don't fit in, but I won't do anything to try and fit in.
You're just going to be yourself, and then if you gel, you gel.
Yeah. Like, that was how it was. I was just kind of being like, well, this is how I speak. I didn't understand why. And then there was my bit as well. Like, I didn't understand why everyone was speaking the way that they were.
What do you mean, Georgia?
Yeah, but in terms of Nottingham, it was quite kind of a mixed bag, and that was quite nice in terms of a change. So definitely around more black and brown people in school and stuff. Although I'd say we weren't the majority, but there was just
but there's enough.
I think
I love that.
I think that gives me.
Yeah, I thank you thoroughly and wholeheartedly for how much you're sharing, because, you know, we're just out here in these streets with a big, vast online kind of black hole. We don't know who's seeing this, and I just love how open you're willing to be, and thank you again for just being your authentic selves. I know you've got a lot of experience of that being on your radio station, which I tune into weekly, which we'll talk about later. In fact, we might talk about it now. Let me see. I'm just conscious of time as ever, because I don't want to keep us all night. The sun is still shining. You might still get a little bit of it. I would like to ask you, radio being one of those ways that you've done it, but how else have you gone about cultivating a local community for yourself, a local community presence, sorry, for yourself? And how have you done the same thing within the music industry specifically? So how have you cultivated a presence within the local community? And that's the timer going off saying we've been talking for an hour, ladies. But we did have some stops.
Oh, girl, you came to ask some questions today.
Listen, I listened to your interview, so I was like, okay, the interviewers are going to be interviewed. So let me just say it one more time for you. How have you gone about cultivating a local community presence in your community as well as in the music scene?
I think it's probably, so with the music scene, we both started out on the music scene in Nottingham through open mic nights. And so you, like you said before, Nottingham's small. So once you hit up 2 or 3, everyone there is to meet, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
All right, don't do us like that, Nadia. Don't do us like that.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, because
no, it's true.
When things are small, it means it's easier to be tapped into the community.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
yes.
And that's it. I think it's those events that build the community, because the people who are the music makers and the music lovers come together at those events, and they know each other, and then you start to support each other, and then that's what drives the scene and drives people's career paths.
Yeah.
And for me, I moved to London following your ass.
I don't know what you mean, Nadia.
I was like a woman called Rastarella. Shout out Rastarella.
Oh, Rastarella, DJ Rastarella with the soca vibes. The Calypso.
Another 97.5 FM for yours.
Say that again, because it didn't come through properly. Give the shout out.
I said another 97.5 Kemet FM host for your lots of win. Well,
available on Mixcloud and all digital radio platforms. Continue.
Ours is. I don't know about anybody else.
Okay, well, that's all I'm talking about.
Yeah, so she introduced me to that world, because before that, my musical affiliation, it was really through grime. Like, it was whatever these were kind of doing. Like, my cousin was making grime music. I was out here trying to be the first lady of NG Cartel and all them things there. Do you know what I mean? So my musical base was at first like places like Take One and CRS community.
Shout out CRS, shout out to Take One.
Do you know what I mean? That brought us up. Do you know what I mean? We all them, but in terms of performance and gigging and getting into that sort of doing band stuff and that sort of vibe, that all came through sort of more like an eclectic scene that is Nottingham. I don't really feel like we have different scenes for things so much. I think
not anymore so much, but back then for sure.
So when she put me onto that open mic night, and
who's that? Rastarella or
yeah. Did the Golden Fleece. You were there, I think.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that was the first time I did anything like that. Wow. And so he's like, yeah, you were so good. I'm going to tell Tommy Farmyard about your whoever. And then people start getting in touch, and then you start doing stuff, and that's how that's how I tapped into that community.
Right. I feel like you two are now that for other people, dare I say it? Like, not to age people, but like, no, because you play like new music on your station.
Oh yeah.
And so it's in a digital way. It's not like in a hands-on way like they were doing for you, but things have changed. So you can now put someone onto a new artist literally by pressing a button. Do you know what I mean? Or co-signing them, speaking on your program.
Sometimes,
which I think is great.
Realize the gravity of that, especially with it being not just on the internet but on bandwidth as well.
Yeah.
Respect for bandwidth radio, so it's great that we've managed to position it that way. Nottingham's #1 black radio station, so yeah, so then that's
sorry, I wanted to do that all for the whole conversation. I wanted to do that because you guys do that all the time.
No, it was so silly, but I'm sorry, but it's for the culture.
It is for the culture. It's all right. This is a May We Talk series special, so they knew they were going to get something a little bit different today. It's fine. Not so serious, guys. Not so serious.
Point to me, because like you said, it leads back to how we're tapping into that community as well. So there's the music community, and then there's our community, in Caribbean and black community basically, and or just not just people that into it, like all those people that maybe you would minorities.
Yeah,
that's our station. So
and I love that you're authentic with that, both of you. You're funny, quirky.
Oh, you mean while we're on
Caribbean selves? Yes, and it fully makes sense now that I understand that you're first generation Nadia, because I didn't know that, and it just makes even more sense. Like your persona on radio is it's very much giving, like, a little bit of a Rastafarian influence, a little bit of a first generation influence mixed with like both of you come together on like a Lauryn Hill 90s throwback current. It's just it's everything. I love it. Like there's just so many influences, alternative, jazz, like it's great. It's great.
Thank you. It is a melting pot, and I feel like you said, we're just trying to be, not even trying, we are being our authentic selves.
You are, it comes through.
That's what we want. We want our authentic selves to come through, and a big part of that is reaching our community.
And it resonates with them. And that's probably why you've built that following.
I hope so. Appreciate it. If that
The fact. And just to move us on, with many artists, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Nadia, following me, I did leave Nottingham, I came back and I left again. Many artists go overseas, they go to larger cities where they may eventually embed themselves, or, kind of affiliate with those cities. What has, conversely, you've stayed or you've gone and come back to Nottingham and very much made a foundation and a fantastic following, as well as made yourselves known internationally. On the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, BBC Radio 1 Extra, that's played worldwide, and many other channels. People are sending love hearts because they know it's true. So my question is, what have been the benefits and the challenges to taking the route of staying within your hometown to form your group, your duo?
The benefits.
The benefits and the challenges to staying in Nottingham, basically, as artists.
To be honest, I think when you move to certain cities like London, I think we have a conversation a lot about kind of the collaboration element being a given, kind of more things happening, more new things to explore, more people maybe to connect with. Like we're a smaller city than some of the bigger cities doing music. And I think in cities like London, I mean, I can't attest to this because I've never lived in London, but from the times that we've been down there, I think there's a bit more of that, like, oh yeah, like we should do something together. Do you know what I mean? It just feels like, and maybe being able to cross paths with people that are kind of on radio all the time, or do you know what I mean? Just, you know, you could be walking the street and bump into so many different people in London.
It's a bit more tangible, like, because they're accessible because they're there, they're in that city.
And smaller cities, but I'd say a benefit is probably a bit more of that tight-knittedness. I think I'm a bit different from what Nadia was describing. I just wanted to point out, because and I know what you're explaining. It's interesting to see how you see Melonics from the outside, because we're still building a community. I'd say this is the most I've felt part of, like, the Nottingham community.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like we're still very much in the process of that. I don't necessarily feel that we've cultivated all of that already. We're in the process.
Well, maybe in building the foundations, it's such a strong foundation that it reads on the outside.
Yeah.
As having that. Having that impact. Because remember, for those of you that are watching as well, I'm from Nottingham, but I spend most of my time in London. So you two are my connection to home. When I put on your channel, it's more than just like I'm putting on the radio. I'm tuning into my girls, people that I actually know. It gives me a sense of comfort. I see that there's thousands of people, you know, on your page, hundreds and thousands of people listening to your station at any given time. So although to yourselves within it, I get that you're building something, but I will say that on the outside, it's not that I do hype you up a lot, right? And I'm biased to a fault. However, what I'm saying in the form of, like, your foundation that you're building, that's factual. And it is a strong foundation. And your reach is broader than the city that you're currently sitting in. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So just with that is a massive community that you generated online, you know?
Trying to say is sometimes it doesn't always feel that way on this side.
Right. I understand.
Do you know what I mean? It's still, we're still constantly having a conversation, like, how do we be those people who can help other people? Like, I think it's a really nice point that was made about radio, but we're often want to be the people in the community that, you know, like the Rastarellas or the Parisas or the Tommies or whatever. We want to be the people that we didn't have in the community. Do you get what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I think, that's what I mean when I say we're still building. It's not to say it's not there.
But there's more work.
A lot more that I wish that, I think for me, my focus for us is trying to do as well as we can do and learn as much as we can about the industry that we're in, so that we're able to really give that kind of support to our younger selves, to artists, and specifically I would say, you know, Black artists and female artists, be that kind of mentor and stuff like that. But yeah, just to come back to the question that we were on, the benefits of Nottingham, I think it is quite nice to have a small or a more tight-knit community. Definitely feel kind of collaboration thing that we perhaps were a bit behind on before is build up. And I think it's coming with the younger lot that are coming through, I would say. I think they're very much like, oh yeah, we want to do this. Everyone's quite, I don't know if it's the social media age or loads of different factors, but I think there's a lot more collaboration going on. And I think for us, those people in the community are inspiring us. People like Jaya Hadid and Cap and what they're doing, Andre the producer, just to name a few people. Like, I think
you put me onto the young'uns. Let me have a look.
Like, there's a lot of people doing stuff, and it's nice that we're able to tap in. And I think that is happening a lot more, even though I think one of the benefits of being in a bigger city, that very much used to be that, and probably being able to find those people who can answer the questions that we didn't have. So maybe that other level.
You know what? Just not even to play devil's advocate, but I never really got that out of London, which is why if I was...
That's interesting. It's interesting you say that.
Making that type of progress there would still be there. But I ended up home and seeing what home had to offer. So kind of situation, because what was at home all along, do you know what I mean? Sorry for the spoiler, if you haven't read it. but now you know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh no.
like it was like that. I went to London searching for, trying to make it in it. Like that's what most people go to London for.
Yeah, that's what I did. I get you.
For music, for the arts.
Yeah.
So
I think we're in a different age now
yeah.
as well.
You don't have to be in those places.
Yeah. And we're more plugged in. I'm more plugged in down there now than I was when I lived there.
Right.
So actually, I've got the best of both worlds because I'm not really trying to pay the cost of living prices it costs to live in London. If I'm really honest, I'm quite happy in my little country home.
We're very, you know, people can move between, people can work remotely now, so I don't feel like there's any disadvantage. I think if there would, like, if something's happening now, then you can't be there. But, you know, like, I think we're doing all right. And we have to give props to people like Joe Bruder, who we're working with, and to True Thoughts, who, let's be honest, are a big reason why we've got some of that reach that you're talking about. Asha, like, you know, obviously they've,
to have that behind you, established companies and individuals that have been here before and that, you know, are big in the industry.
And now we're just like, you know, trying to make the most of those connections that have been made and fortify them a bit. But yeah, I think there's positives and negatives, but I don't feel like I'm impacted by negatives from doing from being here. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's a great choice and option. I think it's the best one. I'm jealous. If the West End could be in Nottingham, if the Playhouse, shout out to the Playhouse, want to give me a job, I'll take it. Like I love, you know, the work that I'm doing currently, but it's really funny. I found a bit of what you said and then a bit of the opposite. That like you're never, not never, but for me it was that typical trope of you're never celebrated or championed as much until you go away and come back. So yes, there's growth in going away and coming back anyway, because I was growing as an artist when I was young. And when I went away, obviously I did some studying, I grew, I got a little bit better in my skills and in my talents, and I came back with that. But I feel like I was celebrated more in London than when I was in Nantes. But also, like I say, my gifts grew and they were nurtured. So therefore, when I came back, I was a different artist. I was a different actress. So there's that to do with it as well. But I think you're right. It's a completely different time and it works to your advantage. And I think it's brilliant. I think the pandemic might have played a part in that whole remote working situation and being able to really get the most out of where we, I think in a TED talk, I heard it called prospect towns and prospect cities, meaning those cities that are not rural, but they're smaller than the major cities. And millennials apparently are making a big like comeback to their original hometowns. And I think it's important that we pour back into them, and you're doing that. So my hat goes off to you until I can come back as well. We've been talking for a little while. I'm probably going to keep for another 10 minutes because we started so late. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So we've spoken a lot about community. So I'm going to just ask you one more question on that, and then we'll get on to therapy and then wrap it up, and everyone can watch back on the playback. Thanks to everyone that's here though, before we move on. I'm going to wave to a few people. We've got Ten the drummer, we've got Tia, we've got Jenica, Andre the producer, DJ Marcus. These are a lot of music heads, so thank you for joining us on Daughters of May. Vicky Thomas, sports managers. Wow, so many people. Tommy, Ash, and Benoit. Thank you for joining us. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, Daughters of May and Melonix. Last question on community though, before we move on to therapy, because that's largely what Daughters of May is about, mental health and well-being for Black women and womoxing. My final question is, it can be argued that Black and brown women are always behind a cause or helping the underdog, as it were. What 2 ways, just to keep it brief for us, do we think communities could support Black women more effectively in general?
That's a very good question.
There's no right answer. It's just a thought I had.
Yeah.
What ways community could support Black and brown?
Yeah, because we're always like, you know, these lives matter, that lives matter. even behind our black men, we're always there. We're always there, you know, on the front line. It seems, it can be argued. I can't say it's a fact. It just seems like that from my experience.
I would say, just as a very broad answer, just making space for us to be vulnerable. Like, I think about earlier about that matriarch and us doing everything, like that's all good, but I'm not here to do everything. I want rest and I want relaxation like everyone else, and that's why I think that topic came out a lot in what we wrote in our for our EP, because I think, you know, if you just use the pandemic as an example, so it was all mad for everybody, and then we had the George Floyd situation, and like you said, we're often the people that galvanize and get out there with the pickets and be marching and be talking about this and supporting everyone. So I think if communities could, not even if they could, I think communities should find a way to give Black and brown women the space to be held up for a change and be vulnerable and
soft, have ease,
and just to find ways to be the caretakers instead of us being the caretakers. But I don't know that, and also I've made it broad because I think they should figure out how to do that. I don't think we should be the ones to tell them how to do that. You know, we're saying that we want rest as well, and we do a lot and we want to be supported, and I think, you know, over to you guys, like figure out exactly how that looks. But I think listening is a big start, and not listening from a place of wanting to respond, but listening just to listen and really take away and think, like, you know, if I was in that position, what would I find useful? That's something that I think communities could do.
I love it. I have nothing to add. Mic drop.
Just me.
Yeah. Do you know the amount of things on YouTube I've been watching about Black female ease, rest, vacations, not just like this whole like luxury lifestyle. I mean just simple things, you know, simple things. Just being in nature, sound baths. Like there's just, that's where my head's at. I'm not trying to be, you know, Xena, princess warrior, Wakanda forever. That's one part of who we are. I would very much like to embrace the softness, the ease, the rest without guilt or justification that, you know, some of the groups may get to enjoy more without having to feel that they're not fulfilling their social roles.
Exactly. So I think outside and within our communities as well.
Absolutely.
I think there's
especially within
pressure. Like, were we having this conversation? Like, yes,
maybe.
We last saw you, and we were having this conversation about how we often are thinking about, oh, like, I need to make this money because I've got this person and this person, and I need to build generational wealth, and I need to.
That pressure that we put on ourselves.
We have a lot of that pressure when there's other people out here just thinking, how do I get the bag? I'm going to get a Birkin. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to go on a holiday. I think sometimes because of that we put in, we don't even give ourselves the luxury of just being able to be selfish sometimes and just think about one's own needs and where we want to be in life and what you want to do with your time. There's this constant balancing act, and constantly when you are just relaxing, it's like, oh well, this is the time I was given, what else could I be doing, and should I have spent that money or should I have treated myself, because that
and you know, the mental Olympics that I won't say we won't speak for everyone, but that I definitely go through with that, but I will say that I am learning, well I have learned, and I've really improved on the whole rest element. I don't justify, you know me, I'll say no in a heartbeat. I'm like, no, I'm not coming, have a great time.
And we respect you for that.
I have a great time. And everyone knows my no is strong now. I have such a powerful no now, and I'm really proud of myself because I'm not being anywhere out of obligation when I don't have the money or the energy to expel. I'm tired. But I will say that I really love
I always wake up so early. So if I wake up early, I feel like there's something that I should be doing. There's my day, I feel like there's something that I should be doing. And we often have that conversation of like, oh, I feel a bit guilty, you know. It's only 10.
I think a lot of women do, regardless of race as well. I think a lot of women do.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's okay, you know, to actually do nothing when it's your day. It's like,
because it's also it's just so helpful, and we don't even need to justify it. I don't even need to, let me shut up. I don't need to justify it. It's just rest is rest. It's needed.
Right. So,
and we just were allowed to before, and now we are. I will say, just before we move on to therapy, that you, although the responsibility doesn't lie with us, and as I completely agree, and the community needs to take that responsibility on, you two did make an amazing space during the pandemic for Black and brown women to get accessible yoga, because it's something that you two are very much into. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
You know what? We were just talking about the other day that we need to revive that situation, because we need to see more Black and brown girls in yoga, bro.
Yeah.
Just not even just the yoga or the physical aspect, kind of
mental space.
The mental space of like, I am blocking out this hour or this half an hour, whatever it is, just to pour into myself.
Yeah.
And them spaces there are very white. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and let me just interject for those, sorry Georgia, but for those that don't know what I'm referring to when I talk about like the online space that you created, you collaborated with a very established yoga school within Nottingham at the time, 2 teachers, one specifically, there's a person of colour that was generous enough to collaborate and offer her 1 hour, sometimes longer sessions online for donations and free, specifically for people of colour, Black women. Especially at a time when we were going through so much stress as a, you know, on a global level, but also with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and the losses that we had as a community globally. So that was really, really poignant and really something that I benefited from greatly. So I thank you for that. I was never on the lives, actually. I always did the playbacks. And it was just so cool to have what could have been like a £20 class in my bedroom for free.
yeah, man.
You know, it was needed. Many of us were unemployed during that time, especially artists, and I was not about to spend no £10, £20 on my rest, my ease, or my ujjayi breathing. Like, so, my mom says, yes, rest.
Rest up yourself.
So thank you for that. Just moving on, lastly to therapy, because I told you, we try and keep it light, but we are daughters of May, so we're talking a little bit about therapeutic practices and the benefits of that, if that's what you agree with also. And I do feel like it's very mainstream now. People are talking really openly. I listened to a couple of your interviews with Jar Digger, with Tiana Major 9. Sorry, I just had to do it one more time. And it's becoming less taboo, to talk about our own states of, our own mental health and our own states of being. As Black artists yourself, why are you choosing to speak out on mental health? Maybe not explicitly, but at least with the idea of self-care. And why do you think others, even Lila Ike, the reggae artist, so many people, Kanye West is a massive one. Why are people talking out about in the lyrics and publicly about mental health, do you think?
Well, it's something that we all go through. I think artists probably definitely the best conduit for that conversation, because most artists are tortured, bruv. So, they've probably got a lot to say on the situation. But I think that's actually, that kind of hits where I was trying to go with it, really. Like,
we're often tortured souls, that's where the art comes from. Yeah. We're often we're able to, like the Robin Williams kind of the comedian, but also going through something dark or
exactly.
Yeah.
But it might not even be specific to people who are creative or in the arts or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I guess it's a source of creativities. A lot of the time you tap into that. I think that's why a lot of art. I think back in the day, it was just done the opposite way, innit? So like your Michael Jacksons and all those types of people, they were using it to form this facade. But
or to the other extreme, like the Amy Winehouses, where, you know, the music became a therapy, but at the same time it was kind of toxic and obviously led to the demise of, a very public demise of. So for us to have these conversations, you know, as artists, and not allow, not even not allow it, to hold one another, because that's what I felt you did, like with having the collaboration with Jadiga, Georgia, and with having the conversation, Nadia and Georgia, with Tiana Major 9. You're holding space for conversation around mental health and feelings, big feelings. Yeah. And when we do that, you can't have a Michael Jackson facade.
Exactly, you gotta
do you know what I mean? And it actually allows for healing because you're talking.
100%. I would agree with that. Yeah. It is.
Love it.
It's therapy, and we're writing from what we're experiencing, and there's no shame in it. We all go through. Right. Just like your mental health is it's no different to your physical health. Sometimes most of the time you're healthy, sometimes you get sick.
Yeah.
And there's variations of what that sickness looks like. Sometimes you might just have a sniffle, do you know what I mean? Cough and a little bit of sneeze. Sometimes you might be laid all the way out.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
You know what I mean? So why shouldn't you be able to call into work and be like, I need a day off, you know, because I am not feeling well in my mind. Maybe.
Absolutely. And some places are doing that. I was working for a day service in Nottingham, and we had, I won't say the name just in case they've changed this policy, but we had 5 designated mental health days that we could use without having to give any explanation whatsoever. Obviously that allows for exploitation, but you'd hope that your employees would just use those as and when. And that's not taken away from compassionate leave, from holiday, any of those things.
And I think it's your business if you want to waste those days, because when you actually need it, what you can do then.
Exactly. And I think a lot more places should take that as an example of how to support their employees, you know. And my mum's a psychiatric nurse, and she's just contributed. She says Black people have always found it difficult to accept their vulnerabilities in terms of their mental health. That's kind of touching on what you said, Georgia, about like that space to be soft, to be vulnerable. We also have to give it to ourselves, I suppose. And she's also said mental health, same thing that Nadia said, mental health and physical health go hand in hand. Absolutely. Even though people have a difficulty accepting this.
Very true. Because anything that you do physically, it starts in the mind. So if you're not solid here, nothing else is happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know, I guess some of us are used to having to deal with trauma. So we in a lot of ways we persevere through.
Yeah, we function. We can be high functioning and still have a very productive life, but eventually something might need some support, or you know, in those areas, because it can manifest when triggered or come out in different ways, can't it?
Exactly. So yeah, absolutely could not agree with that statement more. They go hand in hand.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to ask 2 more questions, because I want you to talk a little bit more about your events this weekend, about the songs that I keep playing, and also whether I've made it into Melonics. But just 1 second. Have you, without getting too personal, please, just what you're comfortable with, have you any experience of any sort of therapeutic practices? And that could be anything from, I know you've spoken about yoga, to it could be online therapy, which I've had myself. I had 6 free sessions. That was great. So have you any experience of any sort of therapeutic practices? If so, how has it impacted you creatively and helped you approach situations any differently?
Yeah, the short answer. So I have had some CBT through the NHS previously.
Awesome. Can you just tell us what that abbreviation means? Because I know what it means, but some people might not know what it means.
Cognitive behavioural therapy, I believe it's.
Yes, that's right.
At the time that I accessed it, though, I had done the opposite of what we'd said. So I hadn't taken any mental health, any self-care days or anything like that. So I was
Right.
at the higher end of whatever I was experiencing. So I didn't find that helpful. That's not to say that it wouldn't have been helpful if I had been
Right.
to do the parts of it that I needed to do. But then after that, I actually, through a good friend of mine, got recommended counselling I paid for privately. So that was in a position to fork out that money at that time.
Yeah, because that's why this page exists, you know, just trying to find accessible as well as, you know, let's be real, some of them are at cost, and we're just trying to find the balance in that.
Yeah, but it was very, very worth it. And she actually, kind of came from a creative kind of approach when we would often do a lot of acting out and putting kind of taking myself out of myself and putting myself in the other person's shoes and mirroring behavior to see what I was doing that was unhelpful or how I was not perceiving situations in the way that they are. Because I think in fact, I won't even go into that, but I think what I learned...
Yeah, just what you're comfortable with.
Inwards, so I tend to have a habit of when...
We just lost the beginning of that sentence. You tend to have a habit
of kind of turning inwards. So I'll tend to get upset about someone's actions, but then right at the peak of when I could address it, I kind of turn it inwards. So then I start something that I didn't maybe put across the thing in the right way. I didn't use the exact right words, blah, 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 blah. And I think, you know, there's all kinds of hosts of reasons for that. But I think, I found that process really helped me understand my strengths and weaknesses. So I think one thing that it made clear for me is that I can be articulate, and sometimes
very articulate.
Receive that way. It's not necessarily my issue. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Spoke about is how people can people have their own image of you, and then you have your image of yourself, and understanding the differences between those things earlier in the conversation, like that kind of not belonging, and that used to be something that got to me quite a lot. But I think I kind of through that really got to know myself and ways that I can deal with things, and trying to, you know, quieten that hyper critical voice, which I know that Reasha knows that I possess, and I feel like you have your own version as well. But yeah, I just found that
I do.
space to talk through things and have that understanding of, because what is in that kind of work, it's not all about answers, it's more so about figuring out how you approach things and being able to assess what's happening in the appropriately. So I think I found that biggest benefit that I've got out of it, because even when I'm having heightened days or whatever, tools that you can go back to, even if you can't access them in that moment, it's like constant learning, and over time reinforces it, so you're able to respond in a way that's better and healthier for you. So yeah, that was a long-winded explanation, but
not long-winded at all.
Advocate for people doing as much of that as they can within reason and within what they can access. But it's quite hard to access that help, and also sometimes it's not one size fits all. Do you get what I mean? All of these people are made equally, and not every approach fits everybody. So I did have to do before I landed with that person. I was really lucky because she was brilliant, and I found it really helpful.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just latch on to the end of what you said there. It's not one size fits all. And although Daughters of May, you know, I champion Black resources for us buyers, my therapist that I had for those 6 free sessions was an Italian lady living in Scotland, right? But she had a creative background. Being an Italian in Scotland, she understood the idea of kind of displacement, or being, you know, one of few, even though there are many Italians in Scotland. But I mean, she actually had migrated she wasn't born there. And just having those few commonalities, you know, especially on the creativity side. She was a former dancer, really helped me, and she was able to help me to do things like that you described, Georgia, that was not CBT based necessarily, but more getting within the body, speaking from a performer's point of view, an actor's point of view. So using my body as a tool to help me through situations, my breath work as a tool to help me through situations, my posture. So all those things I understood and resonated with because I come from a performance background. So although, as I say, I promote for us buyers, you know, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and therapists that are Black and maybe Black women, for Black women, or Wamoxin, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you need. It's just, you know, it's just I'm highlighting it because we don't see much of it.
Yeah, and
right.
There was sounds very similar. She was a white lady, but I think she had very much. It was so funny because she would point out like the cultural aspects for me and the layers,
right?
And
she was culturally competent, and that's what we need.
I think we do need more of us in that field, but I think as well as for anybody else listening or that picks this up, you don't have to be within the community to adapt what you're doing so that you can be aware of these extra layers that are
right.
Cool. But yeah, I've spoken enough now, so I'll let you say.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have anything to add to that, Nadia?
Yes, I've experienced therapy. Yeah. I think it comes in lots of forms. I've done CBT. That wasn't for me just because of my personality and how I process things. But the person who was delivering it was there was something about her that it still helped.
Interesting.
Maybe just the fact that I had a lot of time every week to speak to somebody about what I was going through. And if I didn't actually use the tools outside of that,
the conversation was helpful.
I had a couple of private counselling sessions. That was with a Black lady. At the time, some of it I found helpful. Some of it I didn't. I was going through a rough period at the time, and I think the last time I seen that, I didn't have many sessions with her. I think about 3 or 4. And last time I seen her, sometimes it goes like this: you have a session and you leave feeling worse than you went in, and that's normal. But it was my first experience of therapy, and I just wasn't here for it at the time. And, so I didn't go back to her because I felt like my money was better spent with Jess. So this was I was doing my PT, my personal training.
Oh, Jess. Okay, she's saying Jess because we both had. Well, I say we both. I copied Nadia. We do this a lot. Like sometimes she follows me, sometimes I follow her. I copied Nadia and tried to live my best personal trainer life when I was trying to get ready for the production at the time, which was Harry Potter, and then everything fell through with the pandemic. But it was still a really good time.
Right.
Yeah,
I found those sessions with Jess to be more therapeutic than anything.
They're working on the physical. Interesting.
And on top of that, I think around a similar time, the yoga school that you mentioned, us being a part of, that was a big healer for me as well. So going through that. Also, even though I'm not really a devout Christian or anything like that, a lot of the times when I go through...
Shout out to Jesus! Sorry, I can help it. It's you two. You two bring this out. Let me be quiet.
Shout out to GLD. No. True though, I am like that. It's just that footprint analogy.
It's left within some of our, especially a lot of Caribbean people's family legacy, whether they follow it or not, isn't it? It's just
exactly I go through ups and downs with my spirituality, but that's another conversation for another time. But it is something that I do tend to whenever I'm feeling at my lowest. So they're the forms of therapy that have helped me over the years. Spirituality, the physical practice, the yoga, and then actual counselling. I had I accessed it through the NHS as well twice. So once for CB.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so one time was in the I think it was in lockdown, and then one time wasn't that long ago, and
Awesome.
that was really good. It gave me a lot of clarity about things because, like G said, it gives you a space to talk about things and explore. And I think you were saying, I don't know where I heard you said it, but something about
maybe you tuned into Daughters of May.
I did. Something about speaking to someone who is not attached to you in any way.
Yes, I did say that.
Space to say things unvarnished, in an unvarnished way.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes. So they weren't, because you can't sometimes speak to your friend, even your close sister, soul sister, because
Exactly.
you know it's really revealing that inner self, maybe that hidden self, or something that they might get really worried about or offended by, anything, and you just sometimes you need that unbiased,
That separate
space to speak.
Exactly, because that's another thing. A lot of the time when we're going through things, it's like, oh, yeah, no, I can talk to you, G, but I just didn't want to. Oh, yeah, no, I can talk to you, Naz, but I'm tired of. Do you know what I mean?
And also, some person that you might talk to might be part of the trigger, not even through themselves. Like, for example, something like experiencing jealousy. I can't really say jealous on you today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of have that relationship where we can do that sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes
that's natural as well.
Yeah, like you said, speak to someone who doesn't have that connection. I just wanted to say something because I know we're rushing on, but I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but it's so funny when you do speak to that person, because sometimes you tell them something and then they highlight something to you. And I think when you first go into that situation, you can be like, oh, well, no, like you don't want them to say certain things.
You can't say something.
Yeah, it's like, what? That's not right. But I think that's part of the process, them being able to say, like, you know what, all these people that might come up in the sessions, not because they've done anything, but because of whatever, you know, we're all human and we're all flawed. And I think they're able to highlight how things have affected you, and then learn to not kind of take that as an attack on either those people personally, but them trying to show you how these things interlink. Do you get what I mean? And what you can do, because another thing I think a lot of people resonate with, but I think, again, if we're talking about women of colour, like, it's that fierce protectiveness where, like, you can't really get to the root of certain things that you might feel, because it's like, well, I know that this person's been working so hard or whatever else. You know what I mean? That doesn't allow you to kind of see where actually maybe in that moment you needed something different. Do you get what I mean?
Definitely with long-standing friendships as well. I think because of that beautiful sisterhood that we were talking about at the very beginning, we treasure it and we hold it up here so high that sometimes to our own demise, because then brilliant friendships that could evolve through time don't, because we're not having conversations that allow us to stop harmful or unhelpful behaviors or dynamics that we have between each other. And I definitely found, although friendship was not a thing that was the main reason why I was seeking therapy, it was very much removed from that actually. It did come up once or twice, and it was really helpful to discuss, well, like you say, Georgia, these things might happen. Are they happening in a direct attack to you, or are they happening and because of who you are now or what you're growing into, they do no longer serve you or resonate with you, and that's why it's jarring you? Because things that you accepted previously no longer work for who you are now. That person's being consistent. Your expectations and what your boundaries are have changed.
And I think sometimes we forget that. We're talking about friendships. Sometimes you don't, like, you have friends where it's like, oh, I know exactly why me and these people are friends. And then sometimes you can be in groups of friends where only one person had the connection, and actually the connection we used to do 10 years ago. So now when you're in certain situations, it's like, bro, do we even know each other?
Why am I here?
Anymore.
And it's still love, but it's like
similar things like that. I think it's growing pains, isn't it? Like,
legacy friendships to me one time. I remember that too.
Yeah, girl, you be listening when I talk.
I find that speaking to someone else can really help with navigating those things that I think a lot of people go through as you getting older, and it's like you've come to understand who you are, and you're like, oh, actually, this doesn't work for me anymore. That doesn't work for me. I think, you know, I listen to a podcast and they always talk about how friendship breakups and stuff can be so hard to. Like, I don't think we speak about that enough. It's always like, oh, this person that I loved, or, you know, family.
Or it's like an issue, and it doesn't have to always be like you had a big falling out either.
Yeah, like you know how to navigate it. So I think, I think that therapy and or just speaking to people outside of the situation can be really, really helpful with things like that.
Yeah, because there's other informal counselling, like you say, that it doesn't have to be like official therapy if it's something that is a conversation that can be had just so that you can get your thoughts out.
Exactly.
You know, just someone removed from the situation. And final question, and it brings us back to your yoga interest, your wonderful new release and remix of Ujjayi, which I can finally say.
Yeah.
So Ujjayi, for everyone that's with us at the moment or about to catch us on the replay, is, as far as I know, a yogic breathing technique, and is also the name of the latest remix and release. Okay, I lied. I've done it again. Please, can you tell us all about the most recent release, Ujjayi, and what we can expect from you this weekend and coming up this summer?
Yeah, okay, so as our sis said, we just released Ujjayi, the Brooke Rogers remix, a new label made on Three Sorts. Go and check them out at Brooke Rogers, and the alias, Zero T, or whichever one is alias. He also did the other remix, which was of our track Energy. Both bangers. Brooke Rogers Ujjayi one, that's definitely a soundtrack to your summer. Yeah. Giving sunshine, it's giving
sunshine, it's giving funky house, throwback. It's also giving modern day, like house, feel good, ambient music, IB from vibes. It's just
but yeah, we're looking forward to playing that version live. So we're going to be at Splendor in Nottingham this weekend on the Sunday.
Fantastic.
Head to our page where there'll be details of that, because for some reason the time is evading me right now. But that's all.
Can you spell your handles for us? Because I know what Melonyx is, but can you give us your handle?
Yes, it's MELONYX Music. So that's Melonyx Music, all
which is above, and we'll also post below.
Right, I love that. You got it, girl.
Listen, I've been watching these videos, you know, and I'm just trying to be great, you know.
But yes, we'll be at Splendor this weekend. Next weekend, we're at Kendall Calling on the Chai Waller stage. That one is Cumbria sides.
Wow.
About that on our page also. And then towards the end of August, we'll be at Shambhala on the Chai Waller stage as well. So 3 festivals coming up.
Where's Shambhala?
That is it Northampton?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So a UK tour, a festival tour, that's what we're calling that?
But you know, she's here to yeah. So yeah, you can check us out there. You girls probably won't be staying in the camping facilities, because if you've listened to the EP Lemon Honey Ray is all about the last time that we camped and how.
Was it? I didn't know it was. Okay, I'm gonna re-listen. I literally thought it was about rum, because I really like rum. Oh no, the connection at the very last moment has become a little bit sketchy. Let's see if we can just really quickly get them back for a goodbye, because that would be awful. Okay, one moment. Just want to make sure that we say goodbye. Thank you, Beats by SRB, I think that is, and London Born for joining us. I'm just going to get them right back on to say goodbye, because we can't have them go out like that, you know? We can't have them go out like that. But the connection's been pretty good for a while, actually. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. There you are.
The battery dies on us.
Oh, it's okay, my dear. It's okay. So before we get any more technical hiccups, you know, we've got where you're going to be. We've got your handle. We've got your 2 new releases. This is the last and final thing I need to know.
No.
Did my audition reel make it? Am I part of Melonics?
I don't know why you asked us this, because you've been told how many times. Yeah.
You're honorary.
We're waiting on
day.
you and hot harmonies, girl. Like, what are you doing?
I made it. Mama, I made it.
Mama.
Oh my gosh, man! Do you know what? I can't lie. I feel like I haven't harmonized since I was in Lion King, but I'll sing a good top line. You know.
Don't make me bring up the Sisterhood video.
What video?
The thong song video. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, and on that note, but no, I'm joking. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh wow, you know, you talk to friends online, you know, you have to be careful, you know, you have to be careful. But yeah, I did sing, but you all sang. You sang. So if you just need, like, I just want to do the Michelle bit, just like the bridge, like just come in and like the wind, 1 minute, like the wind is blowing, like after all of the darkness and sadness, like here comes happiness. You believe, like just like that. I just want to come in, do that bit.
You need to.
Michelle.
I'm not dissing Michelle. I'm saying I want to.
Now that I need you to know wherever you go.
You know what? It's the heat. I'm gonna say it's the heat. Now we know where to find you, and all I can say is Melonics, Georgia, Nadia, thank you so much. This has been a long time coming. I love you both, and thank you for joining us on Daughters of May for our special
feed. Then please make sure that you go and follow Daughters of May immediately. This is our sister. We love her. She's doing great things for us.
If for some reason struggling to do that right now, we will be tagging Daughters of May on our story so that you can go and follow and keep up with the amazing work.
We appreciate you so much for being a special girl.
Of course. Thank you. Take care before it cuts us out again, because it does not want us to be great. We are great.
Love you.
Bye bye. I love you. And off record, I'll see you soon.
Hey girl,
That's right, you will.
Ray and nephew. Okay. Bye. And thanks once more for joining Daughters of May for a very informal, very friendly special with Melonics. I've loved it. I am absolutely melting. If you've heard the background noise, it's my mini fan. And I'm going to go and cool off. So thanks for joining us again. Please like, subscribe and follow. And remember that we're now available on YouTube. So head over to YouTube and I'll put the link in the bio. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.